Honourable members, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech Thee to look with favour on this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in Thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic, Thou members of Parliament and Ministers of State with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the levers of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, that good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded in service and honor shall be given to the deserving, country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people, that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honourable members, we go straight to item 4, correction of votes and proceedings. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13. Honourable members, in the absence of any corrections, the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, December 13th, is hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. There's no official report today. And I have not admitted any statements, so we move straight to the commencement of public business. Yes, Honourable Chief Whip, if you may be guided.
Yes. So we have the commencement of public business. We are ready to take item 10 on page 8. Page 8, item 10.
Very well. Available leader. Item 10 on page 8. Are you ready?
Mr. Speaker, we have no objection to that.
Very well. Item 10. Motion by Honourable Minister for Transport.
Thank you very much. Honourable Speaker, I would like to seek your leave to move item 10 on today's order paper 8. That is for this House to approve an amount of 1.26 billion Ghana cedis for the services of the Ministry of Transport for the year ending 31st December 2023. I beg so move, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Chairman of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion ably moved by the Minister, and including, Mr. Speaker, I would like to present your committee's report. Mr. Speaker, your committee met officials from the Ministry of Transport on the 5th of December to consider their 2023 budget estimate. Mr. Speaker, due to limited time on our side, I wouldn't want to read the entire report. I'll read portions of it, whilst I urge the Hansard Department to capture the report as being read in its entirety. Whilst I focus on paragraph 7 of the report and paragraph 9. Mr. Speaker, paragraph 7 of the report gives the outlook for the year 2023 for the ministry. Mr. Speaker, the ministry has listed a number of activities that they intend to embark on in the year 2023. Paragraph 7.1, Mr. Speaker, the ministry indicated to the committee that they expect the operationalization of a Ghana Airline, a home-based carrier for the country by the first quarter of the year 2023. Mr. Speaker, the ministry went further to also indicated to the committee that they have received 45 intercity buses out of the 100 unit buses that was passed by this house. For it to be procured. They have received, as of September 2022, they have received 45 of it. 55 is currently on its way, and they expect to receive it early next year. Mr. Speaker, I'll move quickly to paragraph 9, which is observations and recommendations. Mr. Speaker, under observations and recommendations, paragraph 9.2, the ministry made us to understand that currently the Ghana Airport Company is facing some challenges, and it is in relation to the amount of money which is termed as the APSC, the Air Passenger Service Charges. Currently, it's 5 cedis that they charge, and for the domestic airlines. And this 5 cedis, Mr. Speaker, if you look at, we were made to understand that if you look at the number of infrastructure that the ministry, airport infrastructure that the ministry is currently putting on across the country, this 5 cedi is woefully inadequate to maintain those airports, and therefore they are putting before the committee to look at how they can also help them to increase the fees so that they will be able to maintain the newly built airport, the Kumasi one, the Takoradi one, and those ones that and the Tamale one, and those ones that they have in plan in putting up. So, Mr. Speaker, these were some of the few observations that were, as a committee level, it came to our attention. And, Mr. Speaker, I will just move straight to the conclusion. And in concluding the report, I want to urge the House to approve the said amount being stated on motion number 10, which is an amount of 1,226,619,067 Ghana cedi for the Ministry of Transport for the year ending 31st December 2023. Mr. Speaker, I respectfully submit.
Yes, available leader.
Right, Honourable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of the motion as moved by the Minister and seconded by my chairman. Mr. Speaker, indeed, your committee met with the Ministry and the directors and took us through the overview of the 2022 budget and the projections for 2023. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, it's quite clear that this ministry functions largely on the back of development partner funding. GOG portion of funding to this ministry is very limited. But this is a very important ministry that superintends over transportation. As the chairman have already said, the issues about road transport, public transport is still unresolved in the 2022 budget. The Metro Mass, for instance, doesn't have the required number of vehicles to carry out their services. The 45 buses that were given to them, Mr. Speaker, is woefully inadequate. We need to look at ways of bringing in more buses. Mr. Speaker, indeed, the road carnage situation hasn't changed that much. Statistically, it appears as if we did slightly better than last year, but we have too many people still dying on our road due to various reasons. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of aviation, the ministry made us aware that they have almost concluded or selected an entity to carry out or to operate as a home-based carrier, that is to fly the flag of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, some of us are quite surprised that the entity that has been selected has no record in operating an airline. It is not merely a matter of recruiting former pilots and other things. I mean, aviation business is quite a risky business. But the minister is confident that this will work. But the point is that the minister must be aware that the deadlines given in the past for the operationalization of this have come and gone. So we just urge him to tread cautiously whilst he engages this group. Yes, we are happy that a local group will be part of this, but if they have no record of doing this, it's difficult to understand why we are doing this. A significant issue of tax on domestic tickets came up. Mr. Speaker, indeed, what Ghanaians currently pay for using our domestic airports is just 5 cedis. Mr. Speaker, as of the time this 5 cedi was introduced, I'm sure the dollar was better than what it is now. But indeed, if you fly to Kumasi, a return ticket today will be more than 3,000 Ghana cedi. But Mr. Speaker, just consider, yes, Kumasi, yes. It's a terrible situation. And Mr. Speaker, but look at the level of investment we are making in this airport, Ho, Tamale, Kumasi and other things. Somebody must pay for it. Indeed, it's still cheaper to fly or quicker than to use the road transport. But Mr. Speaker, in principle, we are not against the review of the tax on domestic airline. But Mr. Speaker, what we can't do as a house is to just give approval for another entity to take more money from the public, and the following day, they go and collateralize this money for the next 30 years. This is what we will not agree, this part of the house will not agree. If they are going to do this, we must see that this money go into things that benefit Ghanaians. But even that, your committee expects that in the discussions towards how much we should charge as tax on domestic ticket must be an issue that must be fully interrogated. We don't want to hear in the news that Ghana Airport Company have unilaterally increased a tax on domestic tickets. Mr. Speaker, on the other issue of maritime, Mr. Speaker, it's quite gratifying to note that the decision taken by this House a few years ago to give concessionary agreement to MPS to build a port was quite a very good one. Mr. Speaker, the dividends Ghana is raking in as a result of that is very, very good, Mr. Speaker. We are told in 2020 about over $50 million was realized as our portion of the dividend. In 2021, over $72 million, Mr. Speaker, and Ghana government put in zero. We didn't put in any money. And in about 20-something years' time, this port becomes ours. And we encourage government to take very good care of this because it's creating employment, it's generating revenue to the state. Mr. Speaker, the outstanding issue about the review of the road traffic regulation is still outstanding. Mr. Speaker, today when Ghanaians clear goods at the port, they don't understand why they pay some of the money to shipping lines. It's simply because the Ghana Shippers Authority Act is outdated. And we are urging this minister that before the 2024 budget is ready, if you don't bring a law to review the Shippers Authority Act, we shall actually not be happy to support you in doing anything. You must necessarily bring a new law to upgrade the Shippers Authority Act. So when Ghanaians pay at the port, we know the source, where the money is going, because currently nobody knows. Shipping line just charge this arbitrarily. Mr. Speaker, with this, I don't know why my chairman, what is your problem? You want me to oppose it and I'm not opposing it, so you are not happy. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I encourage colleagues to support this, but the minister to take note of this, that in principle we are not against the review of the tax on domestic airlines, but don't do this arbitrarily. And secondly, be cautious when you are doing the deal on the home carrier, because the entity you are selecting has no record of operating an airline in this country. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, Vice Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the motion every moved by the Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, in doing so, I want to urge both sides of the House to approve the budget allocation of 1.226619,067 for the ministry to undertake its activities. Mr. Speaker, your committee, as my chairman and the ranking has said, we met the ministry and its agencies and looking at the performance of the ministry for 2022 based on the budget release. They have actually done well. And in this regard, Mr. Speaker, we believe as a committee that the Parliament should approve this particular budget for the ministry to carry its activity. Mr. Speaker, I want to lay more emphasis on page 13 of the report. The ministry has actually informed the committee about the construction on Buankra Integrated Logistic Terminal. Mr. Speaker, this particular project is dear to the heart of Ghanaians, and we want to commend the ministry and the government for taking this bold decision for the construction of the Buankra Integrated Logistics. But Mr. Speaker, this project will be meaningful if the two ministries, that the Minister of Transport and Railway, collaborate so that the railway line from Buankra to Tema can link this particular. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, we'll finish with this logistic terminal, and at the end of the day, we'll be carrying the same goods to Buankra, which will not actually bring any benefits. So we want to urge the Minister of Roads and Railway to collaborate so that they can actually link the railway from Buankra to Tema. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Yes, Honorable Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just want to raise some concerns with regards to the budget estimate of the Ministry of Transport, and I hope the Minister will take time to respond to them. Mr. Speaker, first, it's interesting to note in the report on paragraph 9.4, page 13, that the Buankra Integrated Logistics Terminal will be completed in 2023. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure before you came to this House, you knew about the Buankra, and year in, year out, we've been hearing one story from the other. And even before I came to this House, the administrative block was built in the bush. And if the minister is saying that 2023, we should see the completion of this very important and strategic terminal, it should be a welcoming one. But Mr. Speaker, I want this House to take it as an assurance from the minister, so that come 2023, if it's not done, he will be a candidate for government assurance committee. Mr. Speaker, my other concerns are, I tried to flip through the report, and I'm surprised the committee has not found it necessary to state anything about the Qatar port. What's happening to Qatar port when you have a CEO that is there and earning salary, and yet you have a report from the Minister of Transport and nothing is being said about it. Also, Mr. Speaker, very, very important, you have the Tema Shipyard Limited that is severing staff, virtually asking everybody to go home in this critical period and all the difficulties that the staff are going through, yet nothing is said in the report. I'll be happy to hear the minister. What was the reason? Why couldn't it have waited? What is the reason, the special reason why they are hurriedly clearing all the staff there? Is it that there's no any other work for them to do? And in some instances that I want to take personally with the minister, I have individuals that even their redundancy payment have not been paid to them, and they are being frustrated. And I hope that, Mr. Speaker, beyond this budget estimate, the minister may have to come and properly brief this House on the happenings at the Tema Shipyard Limited, and the number of people that have been asked to go home, reasons, and how much it's going to cost the state to pay them off, and all that. So, Mr. Speaker, with this, I hope the minister may be given the opportunity to give some clarity to some of the issues. I've seen that Metro Mass have been mentioned very briefly, but as the minister may be aware, their challenges are very enormous. They are running out of buses. What is the situation there? Because the report in paragraph 9.10 just virtually mentioned them in passing. Mr. Speaker, with this comment, I hope that the House will approve this estimate and get the ministry running. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Speaker, I speak to support the motion moved and to make some few observations. First of all, I think it's good news and great news that at last Buankra Inland Port is seeing the light of day. Speaker, at the risk of being repetitive, we all know the history, and as the lamentation shown by my colleague, Chief Whip, I have personally been to the site, and I must commend the minister and his outfit for the aggressive nature with which they've attended to the construction. I think it gives me a lot of hope that indeed they are not just scrapping the surface, but indeed there's a real construction work that is ongoing. I want to urge the minister to stay on course and to ensure that it's completed. Perusing the report, I find landing sites and fishing ports also gaining the attention of the ministry. All of us are aware of the narrative in terms of this subject matter. I want to urge my good friend, the minister, that it should not just remain in whispers and remain as a matter that is just being mentioned in discussion. We want to feel it. Landing sites and fishing ports are so important to our economy, and he must put finality to this matter once and for all. Road traffic regulation, I couldn't have agreed more with the ranking member. The existing regulation, we are told, the implementation of it has some challenges, and therefore it becomes important that we look at an amendment. Minister, we want to see you leading that amendment as soon as possible. Metro Mass, we've heard and read a number of the buses grinding to a halt, some of them not applying the rules at all. Minister, I think we should have some solution going forward. To conclude, I want to urge the minister. We've often lamented about the skyrocketing price of petrol, diesel in this country. And Speaker, I must commend the government. In recent times, we read and we see consistent reduction in the export price of these products. And it's gratifying that the dollar is also struggling to contain the strength of the cedi. These are all good times. However, I am not too happy when the export price of these products are going down, and yet transport operators fail. I see my good friend, the minister, smiling. Transport operators don't pay a heed to this consistent reduction in the price of such product. I think going forward, we must have an arrangement to deal with this concern. Ghanaian people are speaking to this. It's a big concern for all of us. And Minister, in your response and in your commentary, members are eager to hear what you will say, or going into the future, what the solution will be like. Speaker, with these words, I support the motion and urge members to support the adoption of this report. I thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank honourable members for supporting our estimate. In doing so, try to clarify some few issues. Mr. Speaker, in relation to the Bonkra Inland Port project, we have said, and I think that at the committee level, I made it known to them, that per our estimate, we are supposed to reach 80% of construction by the end of 2023, and by the middle of 2024, this project will be completed. And I want the record to be stated, because the minority chief whip stated that, I think in the report, they made a mistake by saying that the construction will be completed in 2023. We have said at the committee that we reach 80% construction period at the end of 2023. And by the middle of 2024, this project should be completed. Mr. Speaker, in relationship to the Kita port, I also made it clear to the committee that this is a PPP project that government and private sector is doing. We needed to go through the regime for it to be very viable, because we are trying to invite the international community. So what we did was to go through the whole processes, and we are finished with the feasibility studies, which came out and said that the project was viable, and that government needed to do certain aspects, while the private sector also does certain aspects. And Mr. Speaker, I made it point out to them that government had made an initial provision of about $5 million for the administrative block. Even yesterday, GPHA, together with the traditional leaders, were in Qatar trying to identify a land, which indeed they have identified. So I want to assure the House that by the first quarter of next year, because we are going through the procurement processes for government to build that administrative burden, which by the first quarter of next year, and I want to be on record, that by the first quarter of next year, we will start the construction of the administrative burden, while the private sector concentrate in the burden of the jetty and the breakwater. Mr. Speaker, for Temashipia, the minority chief whip also raises the point of some form of retrenchment process that you have. Yeah, it's true that we are going through some processes, but Mr. Speaker, it is not all workers. We put in place a package for those workers who are interested, and there's no way you will let anybody go home if indeed the person chooses to do so without paying the right compensation. But as he has raised the point, it's something that I need to pay particular attention and see that the proper thing is done. For transport fares, majority chief whip, yes, it is true that fuel prices are coming down, and they are coming down drastically. But Mr. Speaker, in determining transport fare, there are three elements: depreciation of our currency, which is also improving, the cost of spare parts, and cost of fuel. And if all the three factors must give an average of 10% increment of reduction before we can do so. But indeed, we have sat down with the transport operators. We are doing our final meeting. We need to go through some processes to make sure that the market survey that is done justify the decision that we are going to take. We've gone through the processes. We are meeting again tomorrow to come, but I can assure them, the majority chief, that definitely the transport operators will do something about it. I think that in terms of difficulty, they've been with us, and I'm sure that they will not disappoint us this time. They will indeed come out and do some reduction in terms of transport fare. For ranking member, it's the APS, Mr. Speaker. Ghana Airport Company has a special arrangement. I don't know, by some design, when the act was passed, this airport service tax was part of their act. It is not stated in the fees and charges. So there's no way we are going to increase APSC without coming to this house. Nobody has that authority. And I gave you that assurance that we will come to the house with proposals. And nobody is going to charge arbitrary fee. I'm going to take that decision together with you. But he must know that other airports in this country don't generate revenue. It is only Accra and Kumasi. So whichever tax that we generate is what we are using to administer either Tamale or Wa or Sinyane or whatever it is. So they must also be prepared to make sure they give us an economic rate that will enable them to be able to recover the level of investment that we've made so that it doesn't become a burden on government. So, Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I would like to assure this House that we will not do anything without consulting the House. And I thank you very much for the support. Thank you. In doing so, I'm just urging the House to approve the estimate for the Ministry of Transport so that we can carry out with our project and other programs that we have. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
At the conclusion of the debate, the question is, all in favor of the House adopting the motion, say aye. Aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The House has approved the allocation of 1,226,619,067 cedis for the Ministry of Transport for the financial year ending 31st December 2023. Yes, Leader.
Speaker, may we go on to other paper addendum and take item 1A to F. Speaker, I seek your leave for it to be done by the Deputy Minister of Finance.
Honorable, if you're going to do a laying of papers, then I suggest that we start with 6A on the original order paper, and after that I'll continue to that order paper addendum. So 6A, the Chief Whip to lay on behalf of the committee.
28th report of the Appointments Committee on the President's nominations for appointment as Justices of the Supreme Court.
The report is duly laid. It's for distribution to members. Order paper addendum. Item 1A by the Minister for Finance.
And ask to amend
hold on, please. I called the Minister for Finance. I've seen the Deputy Minister doing without my approval. So, yes, I don't know which you put.
Speaker, with respect, I sought your leave earlier.
Don't remember granting you leave. I directed you to another place.
Let me repeat then. Speaker, I'm seeking your leave for the papers to be laid by the Deputy Minister instead.
Very well. Yes, Honorable Minority Leader.
Well, Speaker, we have no problem with our colleague, the Deputy Minister for Finance, doing this on behalf of the Minister. But, Mr. Speaker, budget oversight remains our key responsibility. And we expect ministers themselves, not their deputy ministers, to attend upon this House to consider their business. So today, Mr. Speaker, we will tolerate and accommodate you, but tomorrow make sure your superiors are here. We won't accept same tomorrow. This House, we want to take the business of the budget much more seriously this year in exercising our oversight responsibility. So, Mr. Speaker, today, the Honorable Deputy Minister can proceed. Thank you.
Very well. Honorable Deputy Minister, you may now lay item 1A.
An act to amend the Ghana Revenue Authority Act 2009, Act 791, to provide for laws subject to the administration of the Ghana Revenue Authority.
The paper is duly presented. Is referred to the Committee on Finance to consider and report. Item 1B.
An act to amend the Revenue Administration Act 2016, Act 915, to provide for the Commissioner General to establish a monitoring mechanism to determine or verify the actual revenue collected by a taxpayer, to introduce the requirement for a tax clearance certificate for registration of vehicles and renewal of professional driving license, to provide for returns in respect of the realization of an asset or a liability and for related matters.
The paper is duly presented. Is referred to the Committee on Finance to consider and report. Item 1C.
An act to amend the Excise Duty Act 2014, Act 878, to increase the excise duty in respect of cigarettes and tobacco products, wine, malt drinks and spirits, and to impose excise duty on sweetened beverages, including fruit juices, and on electronic cigarette liquids, electronic cigarettes, and electronic smoking devices.
The paper is duly presented. Is referred to the Committee on Finance to consider and report. Item 1D.
An act to amend the Excise Tax Stamp Act 2013, Act 873, to replace the list of products to which the excise tax stamp is to be affixed.
The paper is duly presented. It's referred to the Committee on Finance to consider and report. Item 1E.
An act to amend the Income Tax Act 2015, Act 896, to revise the rates of income tax for individuals and introduce an additional income tax bracket, introduce a withholding tax rate on the realization of assets and liabilities, and on winnings from lottery, revise the treatment of foreign exchange losses, revise the upper limit for the quantification of motor vehicle benefits, and provide for related matters.
The paper is duly presented. Is referred to the Committee on Finance to consider and report. Item 1F.
An act to impose a special levy to be known as the Growth and Sustainability Levy to raise revenue for growth and fiscal sustainability of the economy and to provide for related matters.
The paper is duly presented. Is referred to the Committee on Finance to consider and report. Yes, Leader.
Speaker, we are ready to go back to the original order paper, page 7. Original order paper, page 7, and take item 8.
Very well. Item 8. Motion and the Minister for Railway Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move item 8 on today's order paper, page number 7, that this Honorable House approve the sum of 618,238,687 Ghana cedis for the services of Ministry of Railways Development for the year ending 31st December 2023. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Ranking Member. Honorable Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion ably moved by the Minister, and in so doing, I'll present your committee's support. Mr. Speaker, your committee met the officials from the Ministry of Railways to consider their budget estimate for the year 2023. Mr. Speaker, because of time constraint, I will not go through all the reports. I will just highlight on a few sections of it and urge the hazard department to capture the entire report as being read. Mr. Speaker, I'll move straight to observations. When we met the committee, there were some few issues that were brought before the committee, which we believe it is very critical and we need to address it. If you look at paragraph 10.2, encroachment on railway lines, this is a matter that, Mr. Speaker, it's very serious. Most of their lands, we were made to understand that most of their lands have been encroached by many people, and that it has become difficult for them to even, so the new projects that they are doing, it has become difficult for them to reclaim those lands. And they have to spend a lot of money reclaiming those lands, which we believe it has to end. And we have advised them that they should do everything possible to make sure that they take over those lands because it belongs to them legally. Mr. Speaker, another matter that came is on the paragraph 10.6. That is the Bunkra terminal. Mr. Speaker, we all believe and we know the benefits this terminal or this port, inland port, will bring to the country. But the difficulty now is, Mr. Speaker, after building or putting up this infrastructure, we are now looking at how we will convey containers from the port to the place. If you look at the EC, we are made to understand that the EC line, they are now considering even looking for funds to construct it. This project should have been done concurrently. So whilst we are doing the Bunkra project, the railway line too, because if we are not able to do the railway line, then the purpose in which we are putting up this Bunkra facility now will become a problem. So we have urged as a matter of urgency to look for whatever means where they can get the funding to make sure that they will immediately start working on the AC line, which goes through Nsamom to Bunkra, so that it will be easier for them to cut containers and other heavy goods from the port street without using the main road. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, the committee recommends to the House to adopt its report and approve the sum of 618,238,688 cedis for the financial year ending 31st December 2023. Mr. Speaker, I respectfully submit it.
Yes, available leader.
Right, Honourable Speaker, I rise to support the motion as moved by the Minister and seconded by the Chairman, and to add few words of my own. Mr. Speaker, on page 6, the Tema-Mpakadan Railway line, standard gauge, the Ministry gave the indication that finally this will be completed. Mr. Speaker, the comment I have to make here is this. Mr. Speaker, a few weeks ago, the President visited site to inspect work, and Mr. Speaker, the President sought to create the impression or wish away the role played by the NDC. Mr. Speaker, Article 35(7) of the Constitution does suggest that requests the state to continue projects that are started by the previous government. And indeed, I move the motion for the approval of the loan for the Tema-Mpakadan project here in this House. It is difficult for me to understand why President Akufo-Addo consistently ignores the role played by the NDC in projects he inherited. Mr. Speaker, if that is the case, Buidam was an initiation by President Nkrumah, but it was President Kufuor who actually got the loan for the construction of the Buidam. The actual construction of the Buidam itself largely took place under the regime of the NDC. But never has NDC taken advantage and pretended that we are the ones who built the Bui Dam. So what is it that President Akufo-Addo can't fathom? By giving credit where there's credit. It is just not right, especially when we are doing carbon budget. And the president basically goes to site to inspect work and say, look, yes, this is a project that was approved by the NDC government, and I actually led my side to approve this loan. Give credit. And don't pretend that, oh, it was started by the previous NPP government. That doesn't lead us as a country to do Nkabo. Then, Mr. Speaker, more importantly on this, as my chairman has said, this project was approved in November 2016. The intention is that if this project is, by the time it's completed, we would have found a way of either building a port facility at the edge of the river, create a navigable channel in the Volta Lake, and take the goods to either Bipe or Yape, or continue the railway project all the way to the north. Mr. Speaker, we are about completing this project. The question is, if we take the goods from Tema to Mpakadan, what are we going to do with them? Since there's no facility there, because who is going to take his container to Mpakadan? What are you going to do with it? Mr. Speaker, I urge the railway minister to significantly consider this. The day we hand over this, the contractor hand over this project, that will be a $440 million spent, but the result will not be anything that would kneel to the people of this country. So I want him to pay attention to this. Mr. Speaker, indeed, this House, in this current Parliament, has approved a number of railway projects, 500 million euros for AFCON, for Amandi and others. These projects are ongoing, but we expect that these projects are completed in time to close the loop, because currently some of these railway projects are as if we start from somewhere, end somewhere, and they are not in a proper loop. Mr. Speaker, a serious issue came up at the committee level. Mr. Speaker, it will shock you to see that as we build railways, Mr. Speaker, some of our compatriots in this country are digging galamsey right under the railway as we are building the railway. And, Mr. Speaker, imagine if these railways become operational and somebody is digging galamsey and he gets knocked down, the MP of the area will come and read a statement here that we should sympathize with those people because it's a life loss. Yes, I agree, it's a life loss which shouldn't happen. But whilst we have the opportunity now, Mr. Speaker, let us educate people that railways are built to carry rails. I don't understand why anybody should find it necessary to dig galamsey under a railway. Mr. Speaker, we have also seen that on the completed sections of the Mampakadan Railway, Mr. Speaker, there are sections that the communities on both sides needed to communicate or to commute. They are driving their vehicles right across the railway. Elsewhere, Mr. Speaker, the ministry needs to take steps to introduce safe crossing with signals so that when the trains are coming, the public is warned and they stay off so that the trains can come and go before we do that. It is not currently part of this project, so I encourage the minister to consider safe crossings along the length of the completed section and elsewhere in the country. Mr. Speaker, the other issue is about compensation. Mr. Speaker, we are aware that the ministry did well by paying the bulk of the compensation to those who are affected. But there are few outstanding ones that needed to be handled. And we encourage our colleague, the minister, to do well to complete those ones so that everybody will be rightly compensated. And then the education as to where people should stay away from the railway, if it's operational, to save life, then we can encourage people and then do that safely, Mr. Speaker. With these few words, I encourage colleagues to support this motion for the approval of the law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the motion. And Mr. Speaker, to emphasize that Ghana as a country must prioritize its railway development and ensure that adequate resources are allocated for railway development in order for us to improve the general transportation of persons and in particular goods across the country. Mr. Speaker, it is my view that this annual budget funding amount that Parliament allocates every year, this House should take a position and allocate $200 million for the next 5 years for anybody wanting to come and build railway from Sefi to Wa or to Bolga. Then we know every other year, $200 million of our ABFA is used in building durable infrastructure. Other than using it for consumption purposes, we cannot be using the returns from our oil resources into consumption-related expenditure. So it is my view that when government is prioritizing per the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, monies meant for the ABFA, government should prioritize railway. You can bring in a Korean group or a Japanese group, and Mr. Speaker, just dedicate to them that they should spend $1 billion and build you an efficient rail system from Wa to Takoradi. And we know every other year, 200 million of the money is used to service for it. Mr. Speaker, let me now refer you to page 9 of your committee's report. And I read in the second line, if something is missing there, the chairman of the committee may want to answer. You state that you have 618.238688 for the Ministry of Railways. Then you say there's an increase from 18.238688, and you are describing that as 16.5%. So between 618 million and the 18 million, I don't understand the percentage of 16.5%. So, Chairman of Committee, go to page 9. What are you seeking to explain? You have 618,238,688. Then you are ending with significantly increase from 18.238. Then you are saying, showing 16.5% increase in allocation. I don't see the relationship between 600 million and 18 million and a percentage of 16.5%. Maybe there is some figure there which you are not getting right. Then, Mr. Speaker, I refer you to page 8 of your committee's report, and the committee must account for that. Mr. Speaker, when you come to the table, 2023 budget allocation by economic classification and source of funding, IGF, you are anticipating 5.1 billion, and you want to allocate 4.1 billion IGF. Where is the authorization? Because we know normally, Mr. Speaker, IGF, you are allowed to spend 10, 15, 20%. But if you take 4.1 billion of 5.1 billion, you have exceeded 70% of your IGF. Is that what the Minister for Finance have approved for your purpose of IGF? Unless I don't understand the table. So, Mr. Speaker, the table 2 there is IGF 5.1 total. Then you are allocating 4.1 billion for goods and services. Where did you get the authorization from to spend IGF of 4.1 billion on that? And Mr. Speaker, they must come with a warrant from the Minister of Finance approving that they can spend that IGF on their goods and services. Then finally, Mr. Speaker, as I have said, and the Honorable Minister, recently, this weekend, I was somewhere with you in Adidomi, around Mampikumasi, driving through the railway line. You don't see the contractors aside. You don't see the contractors aside. I observe at every state that I pass, particularly the one when you, Frankie Dwa from the Honorable MP's constituency. I noticed that at the particular lane there, the work is uncompleted, even as you are driving through that particular structure. Such a deplorable state of the road. You only saw police standing there inspecting the vehicle. What is the state of it? Then when you turn on the motorway to your right, I did not see enough activity on it. Then finally, Mr. Speaker, once I speak in support of the motion, Mr. Speaker, I conclude with what you may be interested in. The committee urges the Ministry of Railway Development to collaborate with the Ministry of Transport to ensure that the Bonkra Integrated Logistic Terminal functions optimally. Why? You haven't completed it and it's going to function optimally. Stop using words. You stop using words. When you say function optimally, do you have a Bonkra integrated logistic terminal? You don't. And if you don't, then you are using words to say that it should function optimally. Go and make sure that it is done and done properly, that you complete work on it. The structure is in place. So don't come and put this in your report. Mr. Speaker, I arguably will ask that the chairman expunges this from his report. Is there a Bonkra integrated logistics terminal which should function optimally? Have you driven there recently? You know the state of work there, and it will function optimally. Mr. Speaker, if we accept this, they are misleading this House. But wholeheartedly, I support the development of the Bonkra inland port. But come to us with accurate information on the status of this. With this, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion.
Yes, Leader.
Speaker, I rise to speak in support of the motion. To support the motion from the outset, I want to support the minority leader on the call for a departure from what we are used to, where this drop in the ocean in terms of the investment to the railway sector in our country. It's not the best. So I think that we have to look at the financial model and come to some conclusion that the approach will not yield the necessary dividend that ultimately we are seeking to achieve. It will not. Hence, we need to amend our ways. But I drove from Accra to Akosombo and the Tema in Pakadan line. That one, you have to give it to the minister and the government. And Kwame, I heard you clear when you said that the president failed to acknowledge what we have done before. Well, maybe you are justified to say what you said in support of the principle of dietary principle of state policy as the Constitution espouses. However, Kwame, you must also accept that 8 years that we sat there, the Tema and Pakadan, there was little activity on that line. So yeah, there was little. Can you listen? There was little activity. The real activity took effect when this administration took over. That is a fact. Well, maybe you did the paperwork and all that. We commend you highly. We commend you for all the paperwork. But the real practical translation of the works started in the MPP's time. That is a fact. So we need to, when you are criticizing, be fair. And I want to commend the minister. Minister, in your other world, when you were the environment minister, lands minister, we all witnessed what you did. You are doing well, but I think there is more room for improvement. There's more room for improvement. We want to pride ourselves of a developed railway line across our country. That can be done. The matter on Boankra needs not to be overemphasized. And the ambition is that it will connect Tema to Boankra all the way to the northern part of the country. That is the ultimate goal. And we will urge the minister to focus on it. But I must emphasize that if we go the traditional approach, where we always just make some minuscule allocation to the ministry, we will not achieve what we want to achieve. So elsewhere in Africa, people have developed their railway sector. What is the problem with that? If it's about funding, as the report has rightly captured, we can entirely rely on government. So let's look at a more, for a better word, a more audacious way to raise the necessary oxygen, that is the funding, and develop our railway sector. We know the importance of the railway to our economy, and therefore, I hope that as next year, when we are passing the next budget, we won't come and be repeating these concerns as a basic concern, but then we'll be talking about something else. But having said this, I want to commend the minister highly. You can't help it if you ply along the Tema and Pakadan line. Massive work done there, across the Volta River. For a long time, we didn't have that. So at least let's commend him whilst we are criticizing that they need to do more. The good things that they are doing, we need to commend and observe that and urge him to do more. Time's up, Minister, and we urge you to do more. So with these words, I support the motion and I urge the House to adopt the report of the committee.
Honourable Minister, would you like to wind up?
Mr. Speaker, just to thank the committee for coming out with such an excellent work. But just a few corrections, Mr. Speaker, that I want to put on record. Mr. Speaker, the Temampakada project was conceived in the year 2007, that time by His Excellency President Kufuor, when the Minister for Ports, Railway, Professor Ameya Akumfe, was in charge. So the project itself was conceived in 2007. It was a multi-modal transport system. It is a fact that the loan agreement was secured under President John Mahama's regime. What His Excellency President Nana Addo said categorically was the date of the conceivement of the project. So we have given. Mr. Speaker, we've given recognition to the fact that the NDC secured the loan and it was approved here in this parliament. But the project itself was designed and conceived under President Kufuor. Mr. Speaker, it is a fact that the encroachment on the railway line is something that we cannot take for granted. My ministry is working seriously to make sure that we stop that level of encroachment. What is very important is, Mr. Speaker, the Bonkra Inland Port Terminal, it's supposed to link up to the railway construction. It cannot be left alone. I do admit. What we're looking at in the short to medium term is the possibility to move along the western line, because currently work on the western line is almost about 35 to 40% complete, whilst we have done virtually nothing on the eastern line. So on completion of the western line, there is that possibility that we can move on the western line through the port of Takoradi to the Bonkra Inland Port. So that is what we are doing, whilst we look into the long term of completing the eastern line. Also to address the fact that the minority leader mentioned that the contractors were not on site. Work on the Temampakadan, as we speak today, is 98.5% completion. We expect to get the locomotives and then the DMUs the first quarter of next year. So those sections that you are seeing without any activity being done simply means that the contractors have completed work and then they move to the next changes. So there's active construction work currently going on that line. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I want to thank the members and the committee members for doing such an excellent job, and then appealing to the House to approve this estimate for the fiscal year 2023. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
At the conclusion of the debate, the question is all in favor of the House adopting the motion. Say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. This House has approved the sum of 618,238,688 Ghana cedis for the activities of the Ministry of Railway Development for the financial year ending 31st December 2023. Yes, Honorable
Speaker, page 7 of original order paper, page 7, item 7.
Item 7, motion. Minister for Roads and Highways.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move the motion on page 7 of today's order paper, item 7, that this Honorable House approves the sum of 5,295,339,626 cedis for the services of the Ministry of Roads and Highways for the year ending 31st December 2023. I so move, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Yes, Chairman of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion ably moved by the minister. In so doing, I'll present your committee's report. Mr. Speaker, your committee met the officials from the Ministry of Roads and Highways on Tuesday, the 6th of December, to consider their budget estimate for the year 2023. Mr. Speaker, in view of limited time on my side, I wouldn't want to go through the entire report, but I will select of it and urge the Hansard Department to capture the entire report as being read. Mr. Speaker, when we met the officials at the committee level, one of the key issues that came before the committee was delay in payments to contractors. Mr. Speaker, the ministry made us to understand that as a result of delays in payments to contractors, it's affecting the ministry's work. It's affecting some ongoing projects, and as a result of that, we urge the finance ministry to ensure that they release funds timely to the ministry so that they can pay contractors, so that they can also carry on or go on with continue with the ongoing project. Another issue too was on paragraph 9.5, indebtedness of the ministry. Mr. Speaker, where at the committee level, if we were made to understand that if you put the current indebtedness to contractors in terms of interim payment certificates that have been raised by contractors under road fund and GOG, it is almost about 10 billion. And Mr. Speaker, this is a very serious issue, 10 billion, a very serious issue that needs to be addressed immediately. Because, Mr. Speaker, if we don't pay, as this money piles up or keeps increasing, it will be attracting or delaying you to be attracting interest on delay payment. So at the end of the day, it is a country that will suffer, that will be paying more. So we are urging the finance ministry to ensure that they have to come out with a plan, proper plan, so that they will be able to show us how this indebtedness will be cleared, this 10 billion will be cleared. And it's an issue that we have taken up, and we believe the ministry will look at it going forward. Mr. Speaker, the last issue is 9.6, paragraph 9.6, talking about the capping of the road fund. Mr. Speaker, road infrastructure is very key, and we are all aware. Everybody calling for road, everybody wanting road to be constructed. The only way that we can, about 80% of the money that we get for the road fund, it goes into direct road infrastructure work. And if they cap it, it now creates problem for the ministry, because that is the money that they have to even use some for remedial maintenance and other things. So, Mr. Speaker, the purpose of the fund is to use the money to work on our roads, and therefore it is important that even if we want to cap it, it will not be that, because we in this house we have passed a law to cap it. But we should find a way that this sector is very critical, and therefore we cannot cap the road fund to the detriment of the ministry, whereby they find it difficult to even get money to pay the contractors. So we are urging the finance minister to look at how he has been capping the fund that goes to the road fund, which is being used to pay road contractors. Because if you want the road contractors to do the work, then we need to ensure that we don't cap it excessively, which will create a lot of problem for the ministry. Mr. Speaker, I will move straight to conclusion. And after we have considered all this matters at the committee level, we were convinced, and we think their budget allocation for the year need to be approved. And therefore, I am recommending to the House for the approval of an amount of 5,295,355,626 Ghana cedi for the activities of the Ministry of Roads and Highways for the financial year ending 31st December 2023. Mr. Speaker, I respectfully submit. Thank you.
Yes.
Honorable Speaker, once again, I thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the motion. I also want to take the opportunity to thank our colleague, the Roads Minister, for being very diligent to the House. He appeared here to answer almost every week to our concerns on our roads. Like I always say, as of whether he will do what he's promising you is another matter. Not because he doesn't want to do it, but because he doesn't have the resources. Mr. Speaker, I will start from where my chairman just stopped. Mr. Speaker, if you look at Appendix 2B of the 2023 budget, the Finance Ministry is projecting that road fund will generate about 2 billion Ghana cedi this year. But Mr. Speaker, if you turn to page 4 of the report, there's a table there that talked about some allocations that have been disbursed. Road fund, 612 million. Fidelity, 791 million. Bonds, 256 million. Mr. Speaker, the total of this money is just about 1.6 billion. Basically, what it means is that all that we've been spending from GOG on road is less than what the road fund generates. So government itself doesn't put a penny into road construction in this country. The sad story is that, though, Mr. Speaker, whilst the road ministry, as my chairman said, owes contractors in excess of 10 billion, these monies are generating interest. Sometimes it gets to a point where 40% of what is paid out is interest. It's of no value to the ministry, no value to the contractor, no value to anybody. So, Mr. Speaker, why do you collect people 2 billion and not give them, and rather go to Fidelity and go and raise a bond? Mr. Speaker, this cannot continue. Like my chairman is saying, ever so often when we approve this, and then we complain later, somebody will say, were you sleeping when you approved it? For me, I'm approving this on condition, or I'm supporting this on condition that the Finance Ministry should take a critical look at decapping the road fund, because it is counterproductive to cap the road fund and now pay interest on it. Mr. Speaker, it will be important that we urge the minister to bring the road fund act back to Parliament also. When we contribute money to the road fund, and the road minister has no control over the fund, road contractors are paid sometimes at the Ministry of Finance. Why should the Finance Ministry be paying road contractors? Meanwhile, the money actually belongs to the road ministry. Should we not be paying this money into an escrow rather, so that we can hold the road minister accountable for the utilization of that money? I think the road minister should consider that, Mr. Speaker. Then we go to page 9. PPP arrangement on Temamoto Way. Mr. Speaker, the Temamoto Way, if we were to take the minister's statement from 2019, 2020, and 2021, the Accra Temamoto Way should have been at least 60-70% complete now. Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid the minister's proposal in paragraph 9 is still going to lead us perpetually to not doing anything on the motorway. Mr. Speaker, I am not aware of any PPP project on any road project in this country which is viable. I am not aware that the ministry has engaged any PPP on any road project which is ongoing successfully. The closest we saw was the, Pokwasi Tos in Sawam, which is called co-funding. Mr. Speaker, we encourage the minister, look at another alternative of funding like Accra Temamoto Way. What the finance minister is proposing here will perpetually lead you to be promising and failing. He's setting you up for another failure. Run away from him. Tell him to change this agreement. This particular one is not in your interest. Mr. Speaker, this is my advice to our senior colleague, the road minister, on this. Mr. Speaker, delayed payment to contractors. Mr. Speaker, I am sure you know contractors. Everybody in this house knows contractors that have worked and are not being paid. Mr. Speaker, I have a particular case of a 76-year-old lady who have done roadside cutting. The lady is suffering from kidney failure currently. His 16,000 Ghana cedi is still in abeyance. Mr. Speaker, the road fund can pay this. And whilst I'm talking, the deputy leader, who is the chairman of the road fund board, should have been making effort to pay this lady. But he's not doing anything about it. He's not even listening to me. Mr. Speaker, you see what I'm saying? He's not even listening to me, Mr. Speaker.
You are out of order to personalize your debate.
So, Mr. Speaker, the lack of the delayed payment to contractors is making, and the difference is that when these contractors leave site, the roads deteriorate and we pay more for it. Mr. Speaker, the last point I want to make is the reintroduction of the road toll. Mr. Speaker, we thank the minister for gathering the courage for suggesting the reintroduction of the road toll. I don't know what the senior minister and your former general secretary, who told Mr. Speaker to go and collect the tolls himself if he wants to collect it, will be saying today. And I've heard people on the other side saying that they are introducing the toll only on selected roads. May I ask you if all the roads in Ghana have ever been tolled? No. Tolling has always been on selected roads in this country. So there's no point saying that when you introduce it, it will be on selected roads. Those roads in Adaku were never tolled. So we don't take any interest in telling you we told you so. But the same principle by which we told you don't cancel or suspend the road toll, we are standing on the same principle by saying that we support you bringing the road toll back. We are even ready to discuss how much you should charge. In fact, Mr. Speaker, if my chairman drives a V8 and you charge him 5 cedis for crossing the motorway, Ghanaians will not cry for him, because if he can afford to drive a V8, he should. But the same way, do not go and introduce a new road toll regime without thorough consultation with stakeholders, including Parliament, so that we can agree on how much we can raise. Mr. Speaker, we believe we can build some roads on the back of road tolls. It cannot be the only thing we do, but we will support the minister if he brings that into the equation. Mr. Speaker, I've already talked about the capping of the road fund, and I don't think it's in the interest of this House to support or keep supporting the capping of the road fund particularly. We need to decap the road fund so that the minister can get access to the 2.5 billion that we project the road fund will generate this year for us to improve our roads in this country. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, Honorable Tete.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the motion moved by the Minister of Roads and Highways. Mr. Speaker, in doing so, I want to urge my colleagues from the other House to approve the sum of 52953592262. Mr. Speaker, as Chairman and the Ranking has said, a lot of activities is ongoing in our road sector. The only challenges that we have as a nation is the payment to the various contractors who has actually undertaken this particular work. So, Mr. Speaker, if you look at page 3 of the report, 2022 allocation of the road fund was 45262715862. Mr. Speaker, at the end of September, only 13.52% was released to the Minister of Roads and Highways, which is very inadequate. And Mr. Speaker, as Rankin has said, we want to urge the Minister of Finance that he should actually stop the capping of the road fund and to enable the Minister of Roads and Highways to actually undertake these particular activities. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the page 9 of the report, a lot of activities has been outlined to be undertaken by the Road Ministry in 2023. And all these roads, if it will come to fruition, Mr. Speaker, the ministry needs money to actually take these particular roads. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to add my voice that as a House, we'll need to look at the capping law that we actually enacted in this particular House. In doing so, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yes,
Mr. Speaker, I rise to speak in support of the motion, recognizing, like many other members of Parliament, that access to durable quality roads remains a challenge in my constituency in Bekwai and in many other constituencies that are crying for attention for work that have commenced to be completed. Mr. Speaker, ordinarily, I should be asking for us to set aside this report and not proceed to approve it. I hope that the Minister for Roads will be at idem with me. Mr. Speaker, this report should be approved only when the Minister for Finance comes to assure us that road fund will no longer be capped. That should be the position of this House. He should come to this House that will only approve your budget on condition that he liberalizes and gives you freedom to have access to your road fund. Mr. Speaker, may I refer you to page 14, the paragraph 9.4. The requirement for the road sector is 15.4 billion. 15.4. And Mr. Speaker, let's not take this matter for granted. When you award a road contract, contractor is aside. He has done a certain amount of work. If for 2 to 3 years you don't pay the contractor, the road deteriorates into a state even before you awarded it. That occasions cost to the state. You have already paid money to the contractor. And Mr. Speaker, again, my observation, many of the contractors who borrowed money from those financial institutions that have so been collapsed, payments to them didn't go to the contractor. It went to the banks, the receiver. So the contractor, it meant that the contractor didn't get money to go back to site to continue work. So, Minister for Roads, the deterioration of work done already is not acceptable to us. That you should come back and say that we should cap. Let the Minister for Finance come and assure us that road fund has been taken off capping. Because, Mr. Speaker, every day I get calls from contractors for non-payment. Non-payment. A friend of mine who is on one of the major roads in Kumasi called me, Mr. Speaker, my chief, you have to help me. Now, Haruna, that man no better. He said this morning, that man no better. Because you don't a friend of mine. So, Mr. Speaker, the road contractors are saying that when will you pay them? Then, Minister, what the Honorable Kwame Agoja have raised, I'm looking at it from a different angle. And Mr. Speaker, may I refer you to page 4 of the report. When in your committee's report, Chairman, you say fidelity. We don't know what fidelity means. If you want to say Fidelity Bank, say so. Because government must know its obligations to Fidelity Bank. Because we know that some of the certificates have been serviced by them. What is the amount of money outstanding in respect of Fidelity Bank? Are we to count that as part of the arrears owed to the road sector or to the road fund? We need to know. You just put in a word and say fidelity. Fidelity doesn't mean anything to us. If you want to say Fidelity Bank, Mr. Speaker, page 4, say so. Then when you say bonds, which bonds are you referring to? We just see bonds. And then, Mr. Speaker, Fidelity, I've seen 269.82 in respect of Fidelity. So if you are saying Fidelity Bank, say so. Then the bonds, which bonds are you talking about? Mr. Speaker, this is a house of record. We should know how much money government have taken from Fidelity Bank in the name of payment of contractors. But my position, Mr. Speaker, is that this report should be put aside until we are assured by the road minister that he will dig up the road fund. Then we can proceed. So, Mr. Speaker, you see, road fund, he anticipates to make over 2 billion. Mr. Speaker, give all that money to the Minister for Roads. Because even that already is inadequate for the road sector. My worry, Mr. Speaker, is that if you go further into the report, we are told that the road sector, I think in the last paragraph, Mr. Speaker, they say they owe, is here, indebtedness of the ministry is 5.9 billion. The last page 14, paragraph 9.5. So, Minister, how do you intend to retire the arrears to road contractors? Because that further deteriorates the state of the road. So I would think that if we don't have assurance from the Minister for Finance that he will dedicate your road fund to you, we should not rush into approving your budget estimate. Then, Mr. Speaker, again, Minister for Finance, I have said that sometimes when he's speaking to us, it's as if we are still those schoolboys who went for Kele Willy and didn't arrive in our schools. He says in his budget that the 2.5% he has proposed for VAT is meant for road fund. I hope that is not another clever thing he's doing on the road sector. He has said it, even though we don't support any VAT. But if he is sincere that he wants to allow for more resources for the road fund, then he would have earmarked the 2.5% as road fund money. If he's sincere to this house, he will say that this 2.5% are dedicated to the road fund and legislate accordingly, just like Get Fund and NHI. Then we know that 2.5%, we don't support it anyway. Because morally, yesterday you were not for it, today you are for it, we don't support it. Then, Mr. Speaker, finally, Minister, I see some statement on the bridges. I have been on the Bupe Yape Daboya Bridge. I haven't seen any significant progress on the route. The Daboya Bridge will be helpful, apart from linking Mount Kargo through Lengbensi to the Tolon constituency of the Honorable Habib. You have been on the matter of Bupe and Yape. If we allow those bridges to deteriorate further and there's any breakdown, then persons will be compelled, Mr. Speaker, to travel on the Eastern Corridor, which is also in a very deplorable state. So, Minister, I'm not satisfied with the progress of work on Bupe, Yape, and the Boya Bridge. Sometimes when you are on it, I was driving to Buzunu in the Damongu area. You are asked to park for a number of hours, then cars will come in, then later on you are called in. So, Mr. Speaker, in principle, I'm all for the expansion of road infrastructure in Ghana. I'm all for adequate resources for the road sector, but I'm not for capping of road fund. And the Minister for Finance must decap the road fund. So I'm supporting this on condition that I'm assured that the road fund will not be capped, as was observed by the chairman for the Committee on Education. Mr. Speaker, with these words, I support the motion. But, Minister, road contractors are crying across the country. And many of them may even die, Mr. Speaker, because they can't bear the interest cost or monies they have borrowed to construct the road. Then, Minister, finally, this one is for your attention. Contractors are not happy with you about some declassification you are doing, that you have given a fiat as to which contractor qualifies to have a renewal of his license or his certificate. Minister, open it up. There are many people, whether they are cutting grasses or they are what level of the road, that is their source of livelihood. They pride themselves, Mr. Speaker, in calling themselves contractors. But, Minister, we hear you have introduced some classification or declassification. Contractors are not happy with you, and I urge you to go and review that decision and liberalize that sector for those who want to be in that particular sector. That those who cut grasses are not happy with you at all. That you say they are small contractors, they won't be recognized by you. With this, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion.
At the conclusion of the debate, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. This House has approved the sum of 5,295,359,626 Ghana cedis for the activities of the Ministry of Roads and Highways for the financial year ending 31st December 2023. Yes, Honorable Chief Whip.
Speaker, may we go on to page 4. Still on original other paper, page 4, Speaker, starting from page 3, item 6, and go to 6D. 6D is on page 4.
Very well. Presentation of papers. Item 6D by the chairman of the committee. D1 or DI? Yes, chairman.
D. Report of the Committee on Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs on the Grains Development Authority Bill 2022.
The report is duly laid, is for distribution to members. DII.
Report of the
Chairman, is DII ready? Honorable Chairman of the Committee of Agric, is DII ready? Yes.
Report of the Committee of Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs on the annual budget estimate of the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development for the year ending 31st December 2023.
The report is duly laid, is for distribution to members. D, yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My attention has been drawn to the D Roman number 1, which has been laid. The ranking member of the committee says that the committee has not even met to discuss the Grain Development Authority bill, but it has been laid. So, I want to draw your attention to it, Mr. Speaker, that they have not met to discuss the bill.
Speaker, we are working in cooperation and everything is moving smoothly. So no debate. If it is the case, I got a different communication. If it is the case, ranking member, I'm speaking the same thing as you. If it's the case that you haven't met on that, Speaker, we will stand that down, DI, and then do the two, DII and III, by the chair of the committee.
Chairman of the committee, your ranking member says that DI is laid in error and that the report is not ready. Is that the case?
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Speaker, the bill is still under consideration, and I believe the leader inadvertently mentioned that we now laying the one for the Agric Ministry as part of the report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. So item DI, the alleged laying or purported laying is revoked. Now we'll go back to item DIII. Is that report ready?
Report of the Committee on Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs on the annual budget estimate of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture for the year ending 31st December 2023.
Very late is for distribution to members. Yes, Honorable Chief Whip.
Speaker, bear with me. We are ready to take F. Speaker, on the same page, page 4, F, and I'll seek your leave for it to be done by the Deputy Whip.
Very well. Item F. Honorable Deputy Whip.
Report of the Committee on Mines and Energy on the annual budget estimate of the Ministry of Energy for the year ending 31st December 2023.
The report is delayed for distribution to members. Yes.
Speaker, item change just after F. And again, seek your leave for the Deputy Whip to do the needful.
Very well. Yes, Honorable Deputy Whip.
Report of the Committee on Local Government and Rural Development on the estimate of the Ministry of Local Government Decentralization and Rural Development for the year ending 31st December 2023.
The report is duly laid is for distribution to members. Yes, Honorable.
Speaker, the next page 6, and we're taking items K, L, and M. Speaker, with your leave again, to be done by the Deputy Whip.
Very well. Item K. Deputy Whip.
Report of the Joint Committee on Gender and Children and Employment, Social Welfare and State Enterprises on the annual budget estimate of the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection for the year ending 31st December 2023.
The report is duly laid is for distribution to members. Item L.
Report of the Committee on Education on the annual budget estimate of the Ministry of Education for the year ending 31st December 2023.
Item M. Yes.
Report of the Committee on Works and Housing on the annual budget estimate of the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources for the year ending 31st December 2023.
The report is duly laid is for distribution to members. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, usually when we are laying a report, the chairs of the committee are always present to lay. I'm having the feeling that these reports are not ready. Probably they are in the committee meeting finalizing the report. If Chief Whip can confirm this, we will allow it to go. Because the chairs are not here and the Deputy Whip is laying the report on their behalf. It has never been the case.
Well,
Yes.
my good friend knows I am an honest man. And with all my dealings with him, I've shown honesty. You were requesting of me whether if I can confirm they are ready. Yes, indeed I can confirm. And I know you don't doubt me. So let's proceed. Yes.
The report is for distribution to members. You'll get your copy. Yes, what next?
So we are ready to take item on same page 6, item O. O. I. So again by our able Deputy Whip.
Yes. Honorable Deputy Whip, item OI.
Report of the Committee on Defense and Interior of the annual budget estimate of the Ministry of National Security for the year ending 31st December 2023.
The report is duly laid. It's for distribution to members. Item OII.
Report of the Committee on Defense and Interior on the annual budget estimate of the Ministry of Interior for the year ending 31st December 2023.
The report is duly laid. It's for distribution to members. Item OIII.
Report of the Committee on Defense and Interior on the annual budget estimate of the Ministry of Defense for the year ending 31st December 2023.
The report is duly laid for distribution to members. Yes, Honorable Leader.
Well, with respect, we started at 2, and we've dealt with most of the things we wanted to dispense of. And hence, I want to move the House to adjourn to tomorrow, 2 p.m. in the forenoon. Speaker, I so move.
Yes. Any secondment?
Mr. Speaker, I write to second the motion, but before I do that, I want to urge the leadership of the majority to ensure that committee reports are available, because we are running against time, so that we can take them, because if we don't take time, the 21st we might not. So please let the chairs get the reports ready, so that tomorrow when we come at 2, we'll be able to take most of the estimates. So I second the motion. Thank you.
Arnold, did you say we adjourn to 2 or 10 in the morning?
So that 2 p.m. As well as you permit me, I want to commend particularly the Roads Committee, led by the chair and the able ranking for a good job done. I think being the first committee leaders to complete their estimate, they deserve all the commendation. And so I commend you highly, and Kwame, remain as such.
Very well. Honourable members, the motion for adjournment has been moved and seconded. All in favour of the motion, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The House is accordingly adjourned to Thursday, 15 December 2022 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon. Sorry, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.